What if the jeans you are wearing right now are, secretly signaling your immune system to attack your own body?
I mean, it sounds like science fiction, but it is actually a very real medical reality.
Yeah, so whether you are a clinician prepping for a meeting or studying up on dermatology, or honestly just insanely curious about how our everyday habits impact our bodies, you need to hear this.
Absolutely.
We are taking a deep dive today into a highly specific but just incredibly important medical question, and that is, can tight clothing actually make lichen sclerosus worse?
Right. And to answer that, we have a really formidable stack of clinical literature to dissect today.
Mhm.
We're pulling directly from the 2024 British Association for Sexual Health and HIV guidelines.
The BASH guidelines, right?
Yes, exactly. The BHHH guidelines, plus we have the latest protocols from the British Association of Dermatologists, the NHS, and we are looking at these alongside practical patient care guides from the Lichen Sclerosus Guide and Elite Aesthetics.
Which is great because our mission today is to extract the practical, aha moments from all this high-level medical literature to understand exactly how our daily wardrobe choices interact with this chronic condition.
Because it really is a bridge between complex immunology and, well, getting dressed in the morning.
Okay, let's unpack this, because before we can understand why fabric and fit matter, I think we first need to establish what lichen sclerosus, or LS, is actually doing to the skin.
That is a perfect starting point.
So, looking at the NHS and BAHH guidelines, it is a chronic inflammatory condition. It primarily affects the vulva and the skin around the anus, sometimes appearing in this sort of figure-of-8 pattern.
Right.
And it creates these intensely itchy, white, crinkled patches where the skin becomes incredibly thin, fragile, and just very prone to tearing.
Exactly. And what's fascinating here is a crucial dermatological concept highlighted in the British Association of Dermatologists leaflet. It is known as the Koebner phenomenon, or the Koebner response.
The Koebner response. Okay, I saw this in the reading and it completely blew my mind.
Right. It shifts the entire paradigm. The Koebner response basically dictates that physical friction or damage to the skin doesn't just irritate the LS, it actually triggers or worsens the disease process itself.
Wait, so let me clarify this. It is not just that tight clothing rubs a sore spot, making it hurt more. Like, it's not just a superficial discomfort.
No, not at all.
It is almost like a sunburn, where wearing a tight wool sweater over it doesn't just hurt. The physical friction is biologically forcing the burn to get worse.
That is a brilliant analogy. Yes, the physical trauma actively accelerates the flare-up. When you apply sustained friction, you are causing microtrauma to the cells.
Oh, wow.
And those damaged cells release inflammatory markers. So if you are wearing a garment that constantly rubs, you are mechanically instructing your immune system to launch an attack right there.
So you are basically weaponizing sheer physics against your own body.
Precisely. The physical friction recruits the disease. And once you understand that, you have to critically examine the listener's wardrobe. Clothing is no longer just passive material.
Yeah, which brings us to the actual wardrobe culprits. Because the sources do not hold back on naming the villains here.
They really don't.
Across the derm nicks and elite aesthetic sources, they explicitly call out tight, non-stretch jeans, leggings, tights, thongs, and any underwear with tight, bulky seams.
And the clinical objection to these garments comes down to a dual threat. First, you have the direct mechanical friction we just talked about.
The Koebner trigger.
Right. A rigid denim seam acts like a microscopic saw blade as you walk. But the second threat is the microclimate they create.
Oh, the microclimate. Yeah, the sources were incredibly aggressive against synthetic fabrics. We were talking nylon, polyester, lace.
Because synthetic materials are fundamentally just extruded plastics. They're hydrophobic. They trap heat and retain moisture.
Wait, so because they are plastic, they don't absorb anything, so your sweat just sits there.
Exactly. You are creating a completely occlusive seal against the vulva. The moisture has nowhere to evaporate.
So you're basically building a localized incubator?
Yes. And that trapped heat and moisture create an ideal environment for inflammation. It alters the slightly acidic pH of the vulva, which naturally keeps bacteria in check.
Oh, right. So you are not just getting the friction damage, you are rolling out the red carpet for, like, yeast infections or bacterial overgrowth.
It is a compounding disaster. The guidelines even flag slow-drying swimsuits as a major hazard because they hold moisture against the skin for prolonged periods.
Here's where it gets really interesting to me, just looking at modern fashion. The athleisure industry is huge right now.
Oh, it dominates everything.
Right. We are constantly sold these skin-tight synthetic leggings as the ultimate healthy activewear uniform. But medically speaking, for someone with LS, the trendiest clothes on the market are literally a dermatological hazard.
It is a massive irony. The marketing says wellness and support, but the medical guidelines say maximize friction and trap moisture. They are engineered to trigger the condition.
So, if tight and synthetic are the absolute worst culprits, what is the medical consensus on what you should actually wear? Like, what is the prescription wardrobe here?
The focus has to shift entirely to natural, breathable fibers that wick away moisture. The absolute gold standard baseline is 100% white cotton.
White cotton specifically to avoid dyes, I assume?
Exactly. You want to avoid heavy dyes or bleaches that could cause contact dermatitis on top of the LS. But the sources also highly recommend bamboo.
Bamboo is fascinating to me. Why is bamboo getting such a specific shout out over cotton?
Well, bamboo has two major advantages. First, at a microscopic level, bamboo fibers are naturally round and smooth.
Wait, really? Unlike cotton?
Right, cotton can have these jagged little edges depending on the weave, but bamboo's smoothness dramatically lowers the friction against the skin.
Less friction, less Koebner response. Got it.
Exactly. And second, bamboo is naturally antibacterial. It contains something called bamboo kun, which resists bacterial growth in the fabric.
Oh, that is amazing. And they also mentioned silk, linen, and modal, right?
Yes, all excellent for breathability, and the fit should always be loose. We are talking wide-leg trousers, soft joggers, flowy maxi skirts.
Okay, but I have to ask you about a specific directive that jumped out from the Elite Aesthetics patient guides. Looking at these protocols, is going commando actually being prescribed as a legitimate medical strategy here?
If we connect this to the bigger picture of the Koebner response,
Eh.
then yes, emphatically yes.
Wow.
During a flare-up, the medical advice is to remove friction entirely. The most efficient way to stop the mechanical trigger is to remove the garment closest to the skin.
So they are literally prescribing no underwear.
Yes, sleeping without underwear provides 8 uninterrupted hours of zero friction and maximum airflow. It allows the tissue to actually undergo cellular repair without constantly fighting off trauma.
That makes total sense.
The guys also say that if you are at home, try wearing a loose dress without underwear to extend that zero-contact healing window.
It is such a radical shift in how we think about dressing ourselves. And what about during menstruation? Because standard sanitary pads rely on a lot of friction to stay in place.
The sources explicitly address this. Avoiding friction-heavy sanitary pads is highly recommended. The mesh top layers on standard pads are a nightmare for LS.
So what are the alternatives?
The medical guidance shifts toward period pants, which use natural absorbency without the rigid edges, or using unbleached tampons and menstrual cups to just bypass external contact entirely.
It really requires engineering a completely new way of living. And the sources reveal that this battle against the Koebner response extends way beyond just clothes, right? It bleeds into other everyday activities.
Because your skin doesn't know the difference between the friction of tight jeans and the friction of a bicycle seat.
Right. The NHS and the LS Guide specifically call out cycling and horse riding. They advise avoiding them completely during a flare-up.
Total cessation is the goal when the skin is active.
And even later, modifying them with heavily padded shorts or swapping for a much wider saddle to redistribute your weight.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But we also have to look at daily habits most people never even think about. Things like using the toilet.
Oh, yeah. The dry wiping.
Right. Toilet paper causes severe microfriction. If you are vulnerable to the Koebner response, standard toilet paper acts like sandpaper.
So what is the alternative? Bidets.
Bidets work, but a very universally recommended tool across these clinical guides is a peri bottle.
A peri bottle.
Yeah, it is a small squeezable bottle with an angled nozzle. You fill it with warm water and squirt it to clean the area.
So you are just bypassing the mechanical shear of paper entirely.
Precisely. And if you have to dry, the strict instruction is to gently dab with a wet cotton pad or just pat dry with a soft towel. You never ever wipe or drag anything across the skin.
Got it. Now, what about showering? Because if we are talking about keeping the skin barrier intact, standard soaps are going to be a huge issue, right?
Standard soaps are a disaster for LS. They are designed with foaming agents to strip away oils. But for someone with LS, stripping the skin's natural lipid barrier is catastrophic.
So you just wash with water.
Water or emollient soap substitutes. You wash with these heavy medical-grade moisturizers instead of soap.
But wait, I noticed a massive safety warning attached to these emollients in the BAD and NHS literature.
Ah, yes. The flammability risk.
Wait, fire hazard.
Really?
It is a very serious hazard. These emollients are often paraffin-based. Over time, the heavy oils transfer onto your clothes, your underwear, your bed sheets, and they build up deep inside the fabric weave.
And because standard washing doesn't easily break down heavy oils, the clothes basically become a wick.
Exactly. If you get near a naked flame, like a gas stove or a space heater, those paraffin-soaked fabrics can catch fire incredibly fast. The clinical guidance is to wash those items at the highest possible temperature settings to break down the oils.
Wow, that is intense.
It is a critical part of patient education that often gets overlooked.
So what does this all mean when we put it together? It seems like managing LS isn't just about diligently applying a steroid ointment. It requires you to engineer a completely low-friction lifestyle. That is the perfect way to phrase it. The steroid suppresses the internal inflammation, but if you don't change the external physical environment, you are stuck in a cycle.
So, to reiterate the core answer for the listener today, yes, tight clothing absolutely makes lichen sclerosus worse.
Unequivocally, yes. Because of the Kobner response, the mechanical friction and the trapped moisture from tight synthetic clothes actively trigger the flare-ups.
Which means reminding yourself that prioritizing comfort, wearing bamboo, white cotton, loose silhouettes, or going commando, isn't just some casual style choice. For someone with LS, it is quite literally a medical necessity.
It is an active medical intervention.
It really is. And, going through all this leaves me with a final lingering thought for you to explore on your own.
Oh, I like where this is going.
Well, the sources mention that LS is likely linked to autoimmune mechanisms, right? Where the body's immune system gets confused and attacks normal tissues.
Yes, exactly.
But if a purely external physical force, like the friction from a tight pair of polyester jeans, can trigger an internal immune-like response on the skin, it raises this fascinating question.
Which is?
How much does our physical manufactured environment, the very textures, fabrics, and shapes we surround ourselves with every single day, secretly dictate the internal behavior of our immune systems?
That is profound. We build this artificial environment, but our biological systems are constantly reading it and reacting to it.
Right. It just makes you look at your entire wardrobe differently. If your clothes are your armor, you need to make sure they aren't secretly issuing commands against you.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the literature. We really hope it brought you some aha moments and a profound new respect for the power of your wardrobe. Stay curious, and we will catch you next time.